Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 64 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show.
You know, we could anything like
Now, today we're going to do something we've done it a few times, but we're going to piggyback last week's episode. So last week I talked about the 3 reasons that people quit Jiu-Jitsu and how to combat them. I was really surprised with how many views, how many comments we got, and listens that we got on that episode. Actually, that was our most listened to episode ever that wasn't an interview. And obviously, some reason is probably that the show is just getting more traction. But people were commenting and messaging me that I don't know if I really don't think that they listen to the show very consistently. It just kind of caught their eye. And I really believe the reason that happened is because quitting jiu-jitsu is something that is not talked about very often, but is a struggle of a lot of different people. And I thought I would do something to piggyback that episode and tell you guys a story from my past when I was a purple belt, when I actually wanted to quit jiu-jitsu. I know on the show, everything's always positive and I'm always like excited and people like that. But sometimes maybe I don't tell you guys as much about some of the struggles that I went through coming up into jiu-jitsu. And that's like my bad, because it can be really sucky if a black belt's like, oh yeah, everything is rainbows and sunshine. And then you are like, I dealt with some stuff and no one else has ever gone through this. I'm the only one. But it's really important to know that you're not the only one. And so I thought I would tell you guys this story and kind of give you some pointers to avoid some of the pitfalls that I went through, that I dealt with. Before we get into that, be sure, if you guys didn't know, we have, I think, 3 days left from when this episode will be released. So September 17th will be the last day that you can get 40% off of Simplifying Takedowns for BJJ. This was done, we worked with my coach on it, and he is one of the best takedown artists. I wouldn't say wrestlers, because can you really call it wrestling if it's in the gi, right? Just one of the best takedown artists that I know, one of the best teachers that I know, and he has fought in the UFC. He has won at the highest levels of jiu-jitsu. He's a 3rd-degree black belt, and he is known for having some of the best takedowns in jiu-jitsu. He's at a 76% takedown rate, which is insane if you think, like, for competitive jiu-jitsu. Not like, hey, at the gym I'm rolling with my white belts, I take them down 3/4 of the time. No, against other black belts. And he put together Simplifying Takedowns for BJJ at simplifyingjujitsu.com. 40% off for the next 3 days. And the idea here is it's from the beginning. You're taught like, hey, shoot a double leg disconnected. That's what you're taught with wrestling most of the time. And then you shoot a double leg disconnected. You've never wrestled in your life. You're not a great athlete. You get sprawled on and you said, hey, I'm never going to do that again. Well, this course is not like that. It starts with stance. Just to know how to stand is something that a lot of people don't know. And then it goes into grips, and then it goes into some takedowns off of grips that aren't going to risk injuring your neck, that aren't going to risk injuring your knees, that are safe and that work at a really high level. So like I said, 3 days left, simplifyingjujitsu.com. There will be a link in the description, whatever you are watching or listening to this episode on. Be sure to get your guys' copy. But back to Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu. Something I talked about, the story I talked about in my Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu ebook. I wrote that ebook. It was actually Chewy from Jiu-Jitsu, YouTube channel, podcast, all kinds of different stuff. He's been on my show. He's one of my buddies, and he helped me. He explained to me how to write. I've never written anything in my life, and I wrote that ebook, and a lot of people have read it. But he said to tell a story. He said, tell a story about a quest that you went on. And so I really lightly tell the story about when I wanted to quit jiu-jitsu. And I don't get as in detail as I will for today and explain. I kind of just gloss over that part so then we can get into the good stuff, right? But it isn't all good stuff. So for me, I started jiu-jitsu to lose weight when I was a white belt. I started jiu-jitsu. I'm going to lose weight. It happened in like 6 months, right? Jiu-jitsu is cool like that. You're able to accomplish those goals very quickly a lot of times. And I never really had a big group of friends. I never really had a lot of friends at all. And I started to get friends in jiu-jitsu and I started competing. All through white belt, I was competing. I got my blue belt. And then something horrible happened. I got really good at jiu-jitsu. I was beating everybody that I trained with. I was in the Midwest, so even having a blue belt wasn't super common. There wasn't a ton of guys that you were getting to train with that were purple belts and brown belts or black belts, and so it was tough. I was always like kind of the best guy at the gym, and ego-wise, that makes you feel great, but progression-wise, it can be much harder. Lucky for me, I just would skip school and train all day, so I was getting enough training in. And for about a year and a half, I didn't lose a match in jiu-jitsu. I was like dominating everything. I was only like 17 at the time, but I was competing as a teen and an adult at a lot of different tournaments, and I was winning everything. And I thought I had it all figured out. I thought things were going to be like this forever. I was just always going to be at the top of every single belt. And then I got my purple belt. And first tournament into purple belt, I did really well. I think I got second at Chicago Open. I won like 5 matches and I lost in the final. And I was winning the match. I just lost. Well, as I got my purple belt when I turned 18. I was right. I was one of those kids that when it was legal for me to have my purple belt, I was a purple belt. And I think the rule is changed now. I think you can actually get your purple belt before 18 now. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. Someone's saying I think you can skip blue belt now if you have went through the whole kids belt system. But who knows? I don't care. Regardless, I got it when I was 18. When I was 18, I graduated high school. I had to get a job. I had to start to work. And so I became a personal trainer. I was working quite a bit, and it really made it harder for me to train. And guess what? The kid that could just rely on just getting tons of mat time, I started losing. I actually went I almost want to say it was like 2 years without even making it to the finals of a tournament. I would like win match and then lose a match, win a match and then lose a match. And it was like happening so often. And it was really, really discouraging for me, especially because I had had so much success early on. And I had these goals that I wanted to be one of the best grapplers in the world. And I didn't want to leave. That was really important to me. I didn't want to go to one of the coasts to train. I wanted to train and live. I'm from St. Louis and I wanted to be there. That's where I wanted to train. That's where I wanted to live. And it got to a point, this was also kind of a side story, is my coach's gym was in the city. It's a bigger city and it was right next to a college. So most of the students that he got were people that were going to college. The problem with getting students that go to college is you get a blue belt that comes in and then they get really good and they become a purple belt and then they move away. And it was happening. I was losing training partners a lot. I can think back to some of like my best training partners at purple belt, and they were there for a year and then they were gone. And it felt like it was just me again. And I remember just down to a specific day, a specific point, I had lost another tournament. I think I'd lost to somebody I'd beaten as a blue belt, and I was just so discouraged. And I went to my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I just said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't have time. I don't have time to train, and I want to win. I don't want to compete. Honestly, in my mind, I was sure that I didn't want to compete anymore. But then I was like, if I'm not competing, do I even want to do jiu-jitsu anymore? And it was frustrating. It was this tough thing. And I just remember, I was like, I don't want to compete anymore. And I just remember she said, you don't have to. And it was a really eye-opening statement for me, because I kind of always thought I did. I thought I had to compete. I thought I had to go out and win tournaments. And just understanding that was huge for me. Just understanding like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It's okay. That was a really big point for me, but still I struggled. And I struggled all the way up until when I made the decision to open my school. I opened my school when I was late in purple belt, and it was like this slow process where I wasn't competing as much. I just wasn't enjoying things as much, and I started teaching, and that was fun. That was something that was really enjoyable for me, and I probably could have just gotten away with doing that forever, but I just had that desire to compete still. And I knew if I was going to compete, I had to surround myself with people that have done what I was trying to accomplish. And that's actually, we always talk about our crew that we have, we reference it on the podcast. I've interviewed everybody on that crew, being my coach, Kyle, Junior Silva, Nick Sanders, Ezra Lennon. Those are kind of like the core group of guys. Jeff Scholes, who just moved away because everybody moves away from me, and that's why I have abandonment issues. And look, actually, I've never interviewed. Now that I think about it, I've never interviewed Luigi Fioravanti, who I should. He fought in the UFC a ton of times, fought a ton of huge names, and he's a really good, funny dude. You guys would really like him. Make a mental note of that. You guys remind me. Note to self, but to you guys, remind me that I need to message Luigi or just talk to him next time I see him and get him on the podcast. But that's where all that started, was just knowing I needed to surround myself with these guys. And we were all on different teams at the time. Now a lot of us are tag team, but we're all on different teams. And it just started on like Thursday mornings at my gym, which was really random. It was like a day that I worked early morning, and then at like 9, I got off. And then I would just go right to the jiu-jitsu room and train jiu-jitsu. Well, we got a really good crew, and I started to get better. And I started to have success again as a competitor. And actually, we all started to have success again as competitors, or more success as competitors. Some of the guys were still crushing it, doing really well. And that is like, in looking back, I look back to that conversation I had with my wife, and I look back to kind of breaking the barriers of training with people that weren't on my team. And that was the reason that I'm here, without a doubt. I don't think I would be dead, but I don't think that I would be doing jiu-jitsu. And I know for a fact that I would not be contributing back to jiu-jitsu in the way that I am now. And so there are kind of, and I kind of was specific on the story this time, right? I talked a lot in the story, but there were kind of 5 points that I identified, that I looked at, that I think if you are going through a burnout phase of jiu-jitsu, if you're struggling kind of knowing what you want to do with jiu-jitsu, I think that there are 5 points that you can grab that will be really, really beneficial for you. And they're really simple. So the first thing is you need to talk to somebody. If you are burnt out in jiu-jitsu, look, jiu-jitsu is so much for our mental health. Most of us do jiu-jitsu for mental health. It makes us sane. And if you lose that, if you stop training, if you lose that, it can really cause depression. It can really cause or exasperate depression, maybe not cause. But it can really make things harder again for you. We want to keep you. We want you to stay in jiu-jitsu. So the first thing I would say is admit it to somebody, talk to somebody. I talked to, like I said, my wife at the time. Not at the time. She wasn't my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend at the time. She's my wife now, at least as far as I know. I haven't seen her today, now that I mention it. But yeah, as far as I know, she's still my wife. But the first thing you do is you talk to somebody. I would actually recommend probably talking to somebody that does jiu-jitsu. My wife didn't do jiu-jitsu at the time, but I think it would make more sense. Talk to one of your jiu-jitsu friends and say, man, I'm really struggling with this. I don't know what I want to do anymore. And don't do it from a negative standpoint. Don't be like, oh, I hate jiu-jitsu or something like that, just be honest and say, man, I'm struggling here. Maybe you do hate jiu-jitsu. Maybe you resent it for some reason. You can be honest and say, hey, I'm really struggling. I don't have this love for it anymore. And you talk to your coach about it. And the only thing about talking to your coach is some coaches get worried about it business-wise. Oh no, I can't lose a student. I don't know. If you have a good relationship with your coach, you can talk to your coach about it. If you feel like maybe you don't have that relationship with your coach, you should talk to a training partner about it. And that just kind of lets you know that you can identify like, hey, I am struggling here. I don't want to lie to myself. I'm struggling to keep training. Next, I would say, and this is really important, remember why you fell in love with jiu-jitsu in the first place. I didn't fall in love with jiu-jitsu to be a world champion, to be a competitor. I fell in love with jiu-jitsu because I didn't have friends, and it was this place that I got to have friends, and I got to be around a bunch of really cool guys. I was young at the time, and I was 14, and I got to be around all these cool guys, and it was fun. And if I quit jiu-jitsu, I would lose that. I would lose that camaraderie that I get, that I've fallen in love with. And then next, I would say you need to identify your goals in jiu-jitsu. And we talked about this a lot in the last episode, but you identify your goals and you be honest about them. My goal was to be on the podium at the World Championships at some belt. I missed it from white, blue, purple, and brown. If I'm going to do it, I got to do it at black. And it's very scary to admit that, because if you admit your goal and you fail, well, then you're a failure. If you just keep your goal a secret, you're still a failure, but nobody else knows but you. So that's what happens. Like, that's why people don't admit to themselves, like, I want to be really good at jiu-jitsu. Go out and be good at jiu-jitsu. Now you say, how do I do that though? If my goal is to be a world champion, how do I do it? Well, when you're remembering your goals, maybe your goal is just to have great self-defense. Maybe your goal is to fight MMA. You guys know that I would recommend you to not do that because of brain damage. But if that's your goal, if that's why you're there, you kind of have to do it, man. You got to push through your goal. But to do that, you find somebody who has done it. For me, we start training on Thursdays, and I get around this guy. His name's Ezra Lennon. He's been on the show, and he at the time he never medaled at Worlds in the gi, but he at the time was known locally for being this really good no-gi guy. He had made it to ADCC twice. He was invited once. He had qualified once, and he had some like huge wins. He had beat like he lost to Dean Lister. Sorry, Ezra. He was beating Dean Lister. He got heel hooked in like the last second. He talked about that on our episode, but he beat Pablo Popovich. That is somebody he actually beat. And he had beaten some really big names in jiu-jitsu. He was a really good competitor, but the big thing was he was local. He was from the same city that I was from. He dealt with the same lack of training partners that I dealt with, but somehow he overcame it. And so you find somebody that does it, and then you just follow them around and ask them questions. Most people are willing to give away their questions for free. This is actually something I got from, I don't know if you guys are football fans, but Julian Edelman, who is known for being one of the best wide receivers in football now. He was not a wide receiver in college. He was a quarterback. And he was a pretty good quarterback, but he was too small to play in the NFL. And so he sent out switch positions. I'm a good athlete. I will play wide receiver. He gets drafted by the Patriots. And he's a super late round draft pick. And at the time, Wes Welker was the best short white wide receiver in the NFL. And he played for the Patriots. And Wes Welker has a story where he says, Julian Edelman kept following me around. And it was so annoying. He said he would try to eat everything I ate. He would try to ask me about, hey, when you're running this route, what are you doing on this? Hey, when you're doing this, what are you thinking about on this? And he kept asking a ton of questions. And he said, but that's why he got good. And I decided, hey, this Ezra guy is really good. And he's gotten to where I want to be. He's a little older than me. I want to figure out what he's done. And so I started to follow him around. Ezra's nuts. Definitely should not be a person that you should make your idol. So just note that. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu, he accomplished some of the things that I really wanted to. And so that's what I did. I started to ask him questions every chance I got, invite him to every training session, ask him, hey, when are you training? Can I come? And it started to get me better at jiu-jitsu. It gave me that focus. And then this is the most important thing. This is point number 5. The first one is you talk to somebody. Second one is you remember why you started jiu-jitsu. Third, you identify your goals. Fourth, you find somebody that has accomplished or gotten close, done something close to those goals. You ask them questions, you follow them around, you be annoying to them. And then the 5th one, and this was the most important for me, you stop making excuses. And that was something that I did. I lived off of, well, I'm losing because I don't have the training partners. I need to make excuses. That's my own fault. If I don't have the training partners, I could do what I did. I could find guys locally to train with, even though we were on different teams, and figure out a way to get them to train. Or you can leave. You can go to a different place to train. You can find a different school. A lot of guys that are really good in jiu-jitsu now, they left their original place. I think there's a big stigma around it. I don't personally think it's wrong. If one of my students was a blue or a purple belt and said, hey, I don't think that I'm going to get to where I need to be by staying in St. Louis. I want to go to California. I want to train at Atos. I would do everything I could to help them. I would do everything I could to push them there, because you gotta take the risk. You don't want to live your life and say, man, I wonder what would have happened had I moved. I wonder where I would be at right now. You take those risks, but you don't make excuses on it. I have to understand, dude, these things, they're nobody else's job to fix but yours. And when I understood that, when I started doing that, it made the ultimate difference for me for jiu-jitsu. I still have not placed at the World Championships. I haven't actually even gotten to compete at the World Championships yet at black belt. I missed by I don't remember, 5 points or something really, really small for only having a few months to try to qualify last year. Because I got my black belt in December, and then I only had 3 months. I got my black belt when I was injured. And then I had February to May. I had February to the beginning of May to qualify. I almost made it. I was really close to qualifying. And then this year I would have definitely qualified. And then there was the pandemic and I couldn't qualify. And there is no Worlds. So maybe if they do Worlds, I'll get the chance to. But I haven't even gotten the opportunity to do it. But one thing I know is whether I succeed in that goal or whether I fail, I'm not going to regret it, because I have went really hard. I have pushed everything to get to that goal. Having a goal is huge. And then making the decisions that you're not going to make any excuses, you're going to take responsibility and go after it, is even bigger, even huger, if you will. And I think that is where I will leave you guys in that story, in the what to do about jiu-jitsu burnout. And I hope this is helpful for you guys. I hope it just kind of reminds you guys that, hey, everybody struggles in jiu-jitsu. Everybody deals with these type of things. You're not alone, but there are ways to overcome it. And if you guys have a personal story, because I actually had quite a few people share them last week when I posted this episode, be sure to either send it to me, put it in the comments, something like that. Personal story about you overcoming burnout. I think it could be so helpful to other people that are burnt out on jiu-jitsu right now. So like I said, if you don't want people to know it's about you, send it to me on my Instagram at @McKinney, and I will I'll figure out a way to share it, probably on an episode, but just figure out a way to share it anonymously. That was the word I was trying to think of, anonymously. And I think it would be really cool. I think it would be really helpful for a lot of people. I know at the time, if I was a pro belt, it would have been really, really helpful to me just to know that other people were struggling with this stuff too. So that is where I will leave you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope you guys check out 3 days left, 40% off of Simplifying Takedowns. That is at simplifyingjujutsu.com. Of course, there will be a link in the description. And most importantly, I hope that you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu.